Okie dokie, so I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel, and for the past couple of years, I've kind of been putting it off. Partly because I didn't have the time, energy, nor resources to do so, but mainly because I really hated the sound of my own voice, so knowing I'd have to constantly listen to myself was, off-putting to say the least. But surprisingly last year, someone in one of my classes actually complimented it, and the thought that at least one person in the world didn't think my voice was complete and utter trash was just the confidence booster I needed. Anyway, now that it's 2021, it's a new year, and my resolution was to finally stop putting it off and give it a go. Also, side note for those wondering, I started making this video at the start of the year, I just never had an opportunity to record, so for my own dignity, let's pretend it is. So, with that said, howdy dowdy, I'm Percival. It's a pleasure to meet you. But if that's too formal, I don't mind Percy, Lampy, or even Lampasy if you want. I don't really have a preference. As for how I came up with the name, I actually devised it after creating my avatar, by combining my name, Percival, with the scientific name for Firefly, Lamparidae, and it kinda just stuck with me. Now, while we're on the topic of design, I never really thought about it until I actually started, but designing an avatar to represent myself is so difficult. There's so many things I could design it as, but once it's done, set in stone, chained for eternity, no going back at all. This avatar will essentially be the permanent embodiment of my channel. And that's why I had the idea to make this video, because holy moly, was this whole process stressful. At first, I was like, how hard can it be? I'll just make an anime or semi-anime character avatar, but then I had a crisis because I couldn't figure out a design I wanted to stick with. I couldn't even decide on a haircut, that's how bad it was. Like, did I want my hair to be in a ponytail, or maybe kept up with a headband? Perhaps a high ponytail with an undercut, or possibly just go super short with a buzz cut. And then I had to decide on whether or not I wanted any accessories, cause if I did, I definitely needed a cap since I pretty much always wear one in real life. But then, I'd also like to have things like a choker and dark studded earrings, just cause I'm a sucker for that type of aesthetic. And if I thought that was difficult, I definitely wasn't prepared to decide on a hair colour. I had no clue if I wanted to choose lime green, baby pink, lilac, or peach, because those are my favourite colours. And then I had the thought, what if I go with the classic silver? That could work too, right? But in the end, I still couldn't settle on just one colour, so I decided, you know what? Maybe I should go wild and do a combination of them. See, this is what happens when an incredibly indecisive person is left with designing something that'll be permanent. But on the bright side, if there's one thing that I was actually confident about, it'd be having yellow irises, just cause somehow I always gravitated towards characters with them, so that's something, right? In a desperate plea for guidance, I even went as far as to use one of those anime VTuber description generators, but alas, I couldn't really find a design that spoke to me, you know? Except for this one design that was pretty mint, if I do say so myself. It was an occult investigator that was secretly an eldritch being. I just really love the contrast of an investigator of supernatural events actually secretly being a horrific monster themselves. Although, I did have to wing a lot of the design because they didn't really give any physical descriptions other than having a purple side braid. And because I, admittedly, ended up going a bit too far, I made some simpler designs. And of course, I tried it with pink and peach too, just to see my options. In the end, I was probably most fond of the second green one, but that's just me. I just really dug the hair because it gave off this sleek toxic vibe, and while we're on the topic of hair, I simply adored the idea of having a side braid plait hairstyle because it's a subtle way to reference that one fallen mother hairstyle trope that's prevalent in anime, which can then also add to the whole horror vibe aesthetic I was going for. Plus, if I'm an eldritch being, I could also add some lore and say that I'm from down under, because if you couldn't tell from the accent, I'm an Aussie boy. But, as you can probably tell by now, I didn't end up using any of these designs. As much as I love these concepts, at the end of the day, I'm trying to do a storytime channel. And because of that, I couldn't choose a design that's too complicated, or else it'd take way too long to pump out videos. So, in conclusion, I was a clown for wasting all that time. So, starting from scratch once again, I went back and decided I wanted 3 main things for my avatar. 1. It needed to be simple enough that it doesn't take me an eternity to draw. 2. I didn't want a design that's too similar to existing animators, and 3, I wanted to follow the storytime trend of using a white-based avatar. So, with those 3 rules in play, I decided the next thing I should do is figure out a color palette. But much like before, I was struggling to make a final decision. And then it hit me, what if I had a gimmick? A gimmick where I could change colors. That way I could have all my favorite colors without feeling bad I didn't get to use one. And to incorporate it, I thought, what better way than to have it be like a mood ring, where each color could represent a different type of emotion. You know, red with anger, yellow with joy, pink with love, blue with sadness, etc, etc. You get the drift. Then, with something finally out of the way, I had to choose what to look like as a base. Logically, I could have went with a chameleon to match the whole color changing thing, but I kinda wanted to go in a different direction altogether and have it be an insect. And if I had to say why, it's mainly because I wanted to reference my favorite childhood toy, which happened to be a ladybug plush. I could go on and on about why I hold so much sentimental value towards Buzz, but it's a pretty long story and I actually wanted to make a separate video on it in the future. Now, Buzz isn't the only reason I wanted to have my avatar based off an insect. I've always been a fan of bugs, especially on a visual level. It's why I've always been super drawn to bug-type Pokemon. Like, one of my all-time favorites is Ledian, who I will continue to use despite being rather weak, because no matter how weak he may be, he always manages to capture my heart with his sheer cuteness. Like, just look at him. Absolutely adorable. So, with Buzz and Ledian both being ladybugs, you're probably wondering why I didn't end up basing my avatar on one. And to answer that question, I did, initially. But because the ladybug shell is its most important feature, I felt like it wasn't showing up as much as I'd like it to. So I ended up having to scrap the idea. And so the search for a new bug commenced. I ended up sketching a variety of insects, including a dragonfly, a bee, a mantis, a moth, and a rhino beetle. From these, the only design that actually stuck with me was the dragonfly one. But once again, an issue came up. Because its wings and tail were so long, they took up way too much space. So once again, I needed to search for a new bug. Eventually, I came up with the idea of making it a firefly, or lightning bug if that's what you prefer calling them. And as sad as it sounds, it's mainly because at the time, I just learned how to use the Add Glow feature on Clip Studio Paint and thought it was the bee's knees. So a firefly was a perfectly compact and simple choice that let me get away with using the glow feature as much as I wanted. It was a win-win. When designing my avatar, and this applies to all the other insects too, I wanted to make sure it stayed on the cuter side. And this is mainly because even though I'm a big fan of insects, I understand that's not exactly a popular opinion. So to achieve this, I just did a basic chibi body and chucked on 2 bunny ear-like antennas. However, the design felt a little bland with everything being white, so I decided to give it a splash of colour. But then it looked too unbalanced and top-heavy with just the antennas being coloured, so I ended up giving it the same arrow-like stripe I used in the dragonfly design, which seemed to do the trick. It's actually meant to be a love heart-like shape, with the pointy part being on the front, but it's pretty hard to show front on. Originally, I was also going to colour the arms and legs, but I ended up scrapping the idea because it looked way too much like a panda. So, after that, I added the wings and light bulb. However, I ended up combining the two into a backpack, that way the colour would always be in frame. You know, similar logic to what I mentioned before with the whole ladybug problem. From there, I had 3 main colours to choose from: lime green, a plumish purple, and baby pink. In the end, I chose option number 2, the plum-like colour, as I felt it made the colour of the bag pop more. Yeah, so this is what the final design ended up looking like. I personally like how it turned out, but if you think I made a mistake and perhaps prefer another design, that's perfectly valid too. Anyway, if you somehow made it this far, I hope you enjoyed watching how much of an indecisive mess I am. Imagine having a proper introduction video. Can't relate. Also, I feel like I meant to do that obligatory YouTube, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. So, if you feel like doing that, please go ahead, it'd help a lot. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments section your favourite design. Who knows, maybe I made a big mistake and should have went with another one. I'd love to know. Anyway, Hope you all have an amazing day, and if it's nighttime, don't let the bed bugs bite. Wink wink, get it? 'Cause, it's a bug pun. Bye!